Hi friends, Miss S here with your Read Aloud. Really excited to continue working with the same two texts we read yesterday, which were Bone Button Borscht and Stone Soup. If you do not remember reading these texts with me, make sure that you guys are watching the Read Aloud videos above so that you're all caught up. And we're going to continue working on what we worked on yesterday with our skill of the day, because yesterday we were comparing and today we are contrasting. So today we are contrasting story versions from different authors. And remember, comparing and contrasting is looking at how stories are similar or different. And since we did comparing yesterday, we looked at how the stories were the same. Today we are going to be contrasting and looking at how they're different. So as you guys know, these two texts are somewhat similar, but they also have some ways that they're different. So we're going to be following our steps today, looking at how they are similar, how they're different, and then it'll be your turn to answer your Google Classroom question on your own. And all right, let's get started. So jumping right into our steps, looking at these two texts, what is each story about? Step one, what is each story about? So of course we have Bone Button Borscht. We read this many weeks ago. This story is all about a beggar who comes into a small town hoping to find somewhere to sleep and some food to eat, but everyone has their doors closed to him. They will not answer the door for him. They don't want to help him because they don't have much food themselves. So eventually he comes up with this plan to make this magical Bone Button Borscht, and eventually this brings all the townspeople together. They make this beautiful borscht soup that they all share, and then they celebrate together, and then he's able to stay in the town for a while until he leaves. And then we have our story Stone Soup, which is somewhat similar. We have these three young soldiers. They are coming into a small town. They also want to be fed and have a place to stay, but everyone is closing their doors to him. They're hiding the food from them that they have. Eventually, the townspeople do come together and make this stone soup because the soldiers start saying that they can make this magical stone soup. They believe the soldiers, they come together, they make this magical stone soup, and then the soldiers have a place to stay and food to eat for the night. All right, moving into step two, compare and contrast story elements. So when we're looking at story elements, we're focusing on the main characters, the setting, and the important events. So first, let's look at the main characters. Of course, our main character in Bone Button Borscht, just looking at the title, our main character is the beggar. He's the character we look at the most. We see his point of view the most in the text, and we are following his story as he's moving through this small town looking for food and shelter. And then we have our main characters from this text, Stone Soup. They are our three soldiers. So remember, we're going to be contrasting today. We're thinking about how the stories are different. So just looking at our main characters first, we can tell that the main characters are definitely different. We have a beggar, and then we have three soldiers. So that's already one way that we can contrast them and see how they're different. So our next story element we are looking at is setting. So in both texts, the authors don't tell us the exact cities or towns that these stories take place, but we do know that they are small towns. They're small towns that have people that don't want to share their food. So I would say that we can compare these two. We can compare the setting and say that they are the same. They have the same setting. Small towns that we don't know the name of. And then moving into important events. So the important events in a text are the character motivation and the problem and solution. And when we look at the problem and solution in both texts, I would say they're also pretty similar. We have Bone Button Borscht, this man who wants a place to stay and wants food, but the townsfolk don't have that much food themselves and are not willing to share. And then we have Stone Soup. We have these three soldiers that also want food and shelter. And even though the people in this text do have a lot of food, they still don't want to share it, which is similar to Bone Button Borscht. So in Bone Button Borscht, we have a hungry beggar And in stone soup, we have hungry soldiers that are in towns where people do not want to share. So the problem is the same. And then the solution is also the same in that the townspeople in both texts eventually do come together and share their food through the main character coming up with these plans. So the problem and solution are the same. So moving into step 3, how are the stories similar or different? So of course we are contrasting today, so we're only focusing on how they're different. So the only way that these stories are different when we look at our story elements, main characters, setting, and important events is the main characters. Because of course in Stone Soup we have our 3 soldiers. And then in Bone Button Borscht we have, we just have our beggar. So the main characters are different. That's how they contrast. And then they compare just in that they have the same setting and important events. So friends, now it's your turn to go into Google Classroom and answer this question. If you are really focused during this lesson, you guys are going to nail this question. I just know it. So go ahead and scroll down and then I'll read you guys the question. So, how are Stone Soup and Bone Button Borscht different? A, each text has a different problem. B, each text has a different solution. C, the texts have different main characters. D, the texts have different settings. Look at our story elements and think. How are Stone Soup and Bone Button Borscht different? How do they contrast? Great job today, friends. I will see you guys tomorrow.